it is Wednesday, and we have what is becoming a regular weekly occurrence, although there has been 2 weeks gone since the last we met. Miss Trina, how are you doing?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I am most excellent and always. That's why I look at it, and in fact, Trina, we're going to be talking about today, I think a topic that, well, many just don't quite think about all the time. And here's the thing. The question I'm asking the audience today, and hello, everyone in the chat room. And I mean, Trina, there are a lot of people in the chat room. How are y'all doing? Al, Jennifer, Robin, Dragon, Terry, Flight Risk. I always love that one. Nina the Mystic is very cool. And Franny, I'm going to bring you on. We might do a show next week, Trina, with Franny. And just,
awesome.
I think that would be kind of a really cool idea of, generations.
Absolutely.
I think it'd be cool. Peter, how are you doing? EO, good to see you. Hey, Kaz, over there in England, good to see you. Material Classified, Doris, good to see you. Twisted Isby, they're looking for you. Jill, how are you doing? Al Thor, Landon, Maverick, Karen Cloud. It's just, think agape love always. Just so many people joining us. So,
hey.
All right, folks, here's the thing, Trina. The question is, are you playing the script or are you the character, the creator of the character? When you think about this, everything in our lives is scriptures, software is script. In theater, script is, the play. Interesting terms. So if we're living in a simulation, which it becomes more and more, seems that we are, then ultimately what that implies is that you and I, everyone else, are merely playing out roles that no matter what we do, it doesn't going to matter. What say you?
I think that, sorry, my clock is going off. The reason.
That's all right. It feels like I'm in London.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's like the chime is off, but it's on purpose. It's so randomly awesome.
3 minutes and 33 seconds off.
Yeah. So with that, oh, that's funny. So,
and I'm serious. I'm looking at the my.
Okay. So I see that we're both.
Okay.
I see that we're the creator and we're also the character. I see that we're absolutely both. So the script is set because a part of the higher self, which is the subconscious strata, which is running most of our reality, and we're unaware of it. It's because it's programmed into us. So those programs are very strong. They start from the minute we enter this construct at birth. Boom, boy or girl, division, separation. So as both and being immersed into this dualistic construct, we're primarily running on the programs. But I think we can break the programs and start to reprogram the programs. And then you would be either center stage in the play now, or you're going to be able to write your own script because now you are aware of the script that's running and you're aware of your purpose. You know the role you're supposed to actively be playing for the first time. And you know your character. So now you can jump more into it. Interesting.
It really is, because if the simulation is running, I design systems. Yeah. Did that for decades. And one of the things I found out, and the first time I found this out was in 1994, that code has a way of, how shall we say, righting itself without humans. And it's an occurrence, we call it a ghost in the machine. Here's my point. So if the simulation is running, and I like how you put this, every algorithm has a variable that will change the outcome of the equation.
Yeah.
And it's one of these questions. We're going to get into something really deep here. First of all, let me invoke favor upon everyone listening, everyone who sees our lovely faces. Hers is prettier. We just invoke favor upon you, the favor of the supernatural kind. We also speak for complete restoration of energy, vitality, life, joy, the vigor of understanding that no matter where you are, you're on the journey. It doesn't matter. You're here for the experience. And we just speak nothing missing, nothing broken be in your life. So that's how we play it here.
Okay. Yeah.
Whether they give us the thumbs up or the thumbs down, we love them all.
That's right.
You know, because if you think about it in space, the interesting thing, if you're on an XYZ axis, and if we are truly in this toroidal field of reality, a thumbs down is really, really a thumbs up in your perspective. I just look at, it just depends how you look at it, right?
Absolutely. Because somebody who's having a thumbs down is completely like not happy with the words that you're speaking, which means it's producing an effect within their physiological being for them to have that emotional response, which in all actuality shows that you've done your job.
Someone pointed out to me in an email that what they have learned through these lessons as we study the occult is that there is a vibrational change to your awareness.
Yes.
And when you walk in or amongst family members, whatever, colleagues, your energy is different and it affects them.
Yes.
It does, doesn't it?
Very powerfully. Yes.
You know anything about that?
Oh, my whole life. My whole life it's been that way. My whole life.
Yeah. Hey, Sue G.
Yeah, it'll repel some people. It'll literally make them freak out. When I was 13 years old in junior high, there was a girl, and literally my presence activated like a demonic entity in her, and it wanted to kill me. And she, she literally came to a party with a gun to shoot me. Yeah.
Well, how do you do, Missy?
Yeah, and I never had any contact with
Holy
this.
crap.
I literally did not know her. I saw her, and then she literally physically attacked me at school. I mean, she just came out of nowhere and pile drived me and tried to beat me up. Yeah, and thank God, like I said, I had good training, so I turned that around. But everybody witnessed it. She just came out of nowhere, and this girl, because she couldn't beat me up that day, that's why she brought the gun. Yeah.
Well, excuse me. I mean.
Yeah, like I said, I've been thrown into some pretty powerful energy situations my whole life.
So in that situation, I mean, because that is a situation of extremes. I mean, most people, you notice this. I mean, many of us who've come out of Christianity and have this neutrality now, it's very tangible to others, and they can sense you. Here to the extreme that someone wanted to rid your energy of its presence in the body. That's extreme.
How, and then it goes to the opposite direction, Wayne, because I worked in a group home and one of my children was full on possessed. And, nobody in the state would acknowledge what was truly going on with this child, but she literally had there was an incident with a paralysis of attacking another child. She had injured most of the staff, if not, she had actually injured all of the staff. And I was the only one that she wouldn't hurt. Because I wasn't afraid and I could see what was going on with her. and I would help her fight. And I had to do it all telepathically because I couldn't say one word of what I saw happening because it was not allowed. So with that, this child was just being drugged and medicated when none of that was going to fix her.
Was this a state or county home?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I grew up in, spent some time in a state home. I was awarded the state of Texas. And they saw in their wisdom at the age of 15 to put me on the street. So, hey,
Yeah.
you got a problem with me? Go blame Texas. Anyway,
Yeah. I love it.
I grew up in a home, and, you know, the thing that, and how I got there, because I was an abused child. I mean, you know, had
That's
broken all.
why I had my girls. Same reason. They were
Yeah,
all, I mean,
yeah.
seriously, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And, you know,
Yep.
when I look back on this, Trina, I look at this as training, because now you were in an authority position. I was a resident within the system, and seeing it from, you know, the same plane, but two different points of view.
Yes.
Yeah. And
This was when I first learned the power of the placebo effect. Was
mm-hmm.
working in that home because I had all these children who had been victimized.
Yeah.
I mean, off the charts. And they had heard that so many. That's why when I see you and I see your mentality, I'm like, my God, you're a warrior. It is crazy. You are such a warrior. That's crazy right there. That is warrior shit right there. I'm like, whoa. Because, yeah. So these kids, you know, they were so drugged and victimed, and let's talk about your trauma. Let's talk about your trauma. And then they throw me in. I'm an intern. I'm getting my degree. And they throw me into spiritual group and tell me I have to teach it, but I can't teach any religion. And and I'm like, why did you give this to me? I don't know what to do. They're like, we don't either. That's why we're giving it to you. I'm like, oh, geez. So they give me this spiritual group. So I started researching every religion to find a common theme. So I could teach religion in a way that wouldn't offend any religion. And they were like, that's brilliant. So
YouTube needs to hire you. That's all I got to say.
Well, that was what I just thought of. It's like chunk it up, because if we get rid of the details, we're all looking at the same aspect. It's a close relationship or an understanding of a higher power or God or whatever you call it. So I was like, what do they all have in common? They all have messengers of God.
True.
All of them. So I focused on that, and I would bring messengers of God from all the different religions and integrate them into the messages. And then with that, I started talking to these kids, and they're like, where was God when I needed him? And blah, 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 blah. I'm like, oh man, hands down, you win. I can't argue that. I cannot argue that. I said, but you got to understand. I said, something about this is you're still alive. I said, so somehow, some way your prayers were answered, because you shouldn't have survived. And I told them, I says, you guys are warriors. You've been told how you're such victims. I said, but you survived. My God, you survived. I'm like, This world can't throw anything at you now that's going to be as extreme as what you've already been through. I said, you are 10 foot tall and bulletproof. I'm like, yeah, you know, and then they were like, well, how could there be a God? And I was like, you know, I can't understand why you had to go through what you went through. And I can't understand how there wasn't divine intervention. I said, but you are alive. So to me, that says there was some intervention. I said, but all I know is that the source that's higher within us is the source of you that makes your heart beat. And
yeah, I mean, now you see, I have a perspective that, you know, I was living in there for myself. You know, I survived, you know, how I got in there as my dad, you know, broke my back and broke this arm, these 3 fingers here. Anyway,
my girls, Wayne, I had to look at the scars, and it was just like, whoa. Yeah.
And, you know, and you know, you learned a lot. Now,
yes,
I never prayed, you know, in all of those beatings and everything else. I don't know. As I look back now, that was what and here's my perspective. We travel through different bodies of the same soul, so to speak.
Yeah.
Our spirits are given a soul that is blended with this body. Because when I see that child, I identify with that child, but in reality, that child is really not me. It was a version of me that went through something. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, that version of you was the program that got installed to you.
Yeah, whatever it was. Yeah.
And as you gained your own self-confidence and self-love and self-determination through that horror, you became so freaking strong that you broke all of the programs and wrote your own new ones.
Well, and I'll tell folks, if you've never lived in a state home, this is what it's like. Now, the place where I was at was a place in Houston, Texas, called Burnett Balin. It was a new facility. This was 1968.
Wow.
It had 6 boy cottages. Each cottage was in shape of a square and had an atrium in the middle that actually had a retractable roof. But each cottage could hold a maximum of up to 16 children.
Wow.
So you had 6 boy cottages, and then you had the compound, which was basically the commissary where all the food was distributed, and we ate well, and the administration offices, and they had a complete gymnasium, football field, the whole bit. And then on the other side of that was the girl cottages, where also the pool was. By the way, it's where Wayne was in the summertime. I got to get work with a laugh guy. Anyway, I digress. And the thing about it, what I found, it was a shock at first. I mean, there's a lot of screwed up kids. Here's what people don't talk about, Trina. What I saw and what I experienced, there were a lot of the spirits were broken.
Oh my God.
Of these beings.
Oh my God. Yes.
But as you well know.
My God. Yes.
Yeah. And
that was, I was getting a psychology and social work degree, and you're reading about this stuff, but until you actually can see it and touch it and empathize with it and actually feel it, it's a whole different level of understanding.
It is. And you know what? There were some loving people like yourself. I remember every one of the cottage parents. To this day, I know their names, their complete names. I know the counselors. And there was one counselor in particular, Roberto, just a loving man who had an empathy for wanting to heal young, broken spirits.
Wow.
And this was in 1968.
Yep.
And when I think about your challenge, how do you teach a child in a non-religious environment about spirituality? Like,
I taught them that they were their own saviors.
Interesting. Yes.
And I taught them that the power of life itself was what was making their heart beat, and that they were connected to that life, and that life is much bigger than they can imagine, and that they've already somehow been able to tap into that to get through this kind of life experience.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, they're warriors. And I flipped the way they looked at their self and the way they looked at their trauma to such an extent. I got called in by the head psychologist of the State Department, and she said, "What are you doing to my kids?" And I was like,
oh, say what?
I thought I was in big trouble. And she was like, "They're talking about trauma that we have begged them to talk about for 7 years, and they won't discuss it." She goes, "And they're just walking in here, plopping on the couch and just laying it out on the line. What Excellent. Are you doing to my kids?" I was like, I told them they were superheroes and warriors. She's like, "Well, whatever you're doing, keep doing it." I was like, "Okay." But I thought I was in big trouble.
So how I see this now, unfortunately, we didn't have anyone in that direction. We had a gentleman, an organization that was primarily Southern Baptist, and it was our introduction. But I want to get back to the point. The thing that what as a child living with other children who had been abused, neglected, we we form our own circles, outside of the periphery of the adults. But what you did was that you fundamentally changed what they were projecting.
Yes. And I had realized that because they told me, because when I first got there and I saw how they ran the kids, I thought it was like Nazi land. Everything is done at the minute, so it was like soldiers. And I was like, they have no freedom. There's no creativity. They can't do anything on their own. They're like, you can't do that to these children. They need structure. Their structure has never been in place. They need structure. I was like, no, that's not true. I want to take them to the mall. So they're like, go ahead. They let me.
They really did. Excellent. We didn't have malls in my day, but that'd have been cool.
They let me. So I took the kids to the mall and they completely had meltdown. They freaked out. They didn't know what to do. They did not know what to do if they weren't being told what to do. They had no creativity left, no free thought left. They couldn't think on their own. So I had to line them all up like soldiers and tell them to march one foot in front of the other all the way back home. And I had to turn into a drill sergeant so they could be safe within their own emotional conundrum. So that was my supervisor. She started laughing when I came back because she saw them all in a line marching down the street. I walked in and she's laughing her head. I'm like, don't even say I told you so. She's like, I won't. And I was like,
that's just
so right. So that was, I started seeing the programming and I started seeing the medications and I started seeing all the stuff. And I was like, these kids are in such a world that is so in opposition to a healthy, creative childhood experience. I said, I got to bring them back into some kind of magic, spirituality, angels. I have to find a way. And that's what I did through messengers of God. I would find messages that somehow it's like, oh, I heard that before, or somehow it would bring a remembrance of one good thing. I'm like, those one good things, those are what you have to build your new foundation upon.
Now, what time was this chronologically?
I was in the group homes in 94.
94. Okay. So that was quite some time after my time.
Yeah.
And the thing that I can tell the difference was in the 60s when I was in a ward of the state, they weren't giving us drugs.
Wayne, I saw some of them on 24 different scripts a day.
Yeah, you see, and isn't that interesting? Prescriptions, it's the scripts everywhere, folks. But I think that was to our advantage. I mean,
yes,
when you're dealing with, as you know, in social work, anger is a real big issue because for children who are abused, typically they're the recipients of anger from adults, and it's a transference of a projection.
Yes, I say children mimic what they see.
Yeah,
they have no other option. That is the only program they've received.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now I was a different kid. I always was. There were two girls. We went to a camp called Camp Peniel outside Marble Falls, Texas, and it was a Christian youth camp. It was a beautiful place. I mean, it had a huge impact on my life in many ways. But there were two volunteer counselors up there, two girls, Suzanne William and Suzanne Dodd. Still remember them, and they took a liking to me. I was a cute kid, and. And I was a different kid, as they said. I stood out. Anyway, they came back.
The different kid, Wayne, the different kid thing. That's what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
You see, from the time you were a child, you were picked out.
Yeah. And you know what those two did, Trina?
What?
They came in Thanksgiving because I couldn't go back home. And anyway, they came, they're very wealthy parents, and they gave me my first album, which was Blood, Sweat, and Tears. And I remember that moment. I'm actually seeing it right now.
Yeah.
And it's those things that begin to impact certain children, certain souls, I guess, which showed me that there was this essence of humanity, that you could trust people, and that was the big deal.
Yeah, it was like those small acts of kindness transform you when you've been treated so cruel.
Yeah, you're not doing like this.
Yeah, and then somebody is kind to you. It gives you hope.
Yeah, it does.
Yep.
Are you still in the field of social work?
No, I couldn't handle the drugs. I couldn't handle watching them turn these kids into zombies. It was ripping me apart. So I do what I do now with journey work, and people call me and they want help with their kids, and I help their kids. So
it's interesting that you say that. Do you know that I just read this article. I'm going to be talking about it on my radio show, that parents are now seeking out life coaches.
Yes.
Because for their children.
Yeah.
They're looking for, get this, folks, they're looking for those people who were pre-technology.
Yes.
Us hippies. I know.
Yes. Precisely.
Okay, so let's get serious back on what I find. This is compelling. I didn't have this on the agenda, but this is compelling. So what you witnessed, so within, let's say, I got out of the system in 1970, and so we're talking your time frame, 94, did you say?
Yeah. 24 years later.
24, 25, a quarter of a century later. Look how the problem continued to escalate, but yet the professional side of state institutions is to use drugs.
All the time.
All the time.
All the time. Not one child was not allowed to be on medication.
Really?
Not one single child. Not one. Nope. Every single one.
So what? Antidepressants, anti-anxiety,
everything you could imagine. Everything you could imagine. And they were doing cocktails. I think they were experimenting on the children and then the children's hormones are constantly changing. So the meds are freaking out because of their hormones, because they're all chemicals. It was a nightmare. You know, the agenda books that they send home in the schools now for the kids, and you have to do the homework assignments and stuff. I created those.
Okay.
Because I had 56 teachers a week I was trying to communicate with. And the whole email and the phone thing was not working out. So I created an agenda book so I could find out what homework they had, what their behavior was exhibiting. Are they falling asleep in class? Are they bouncing off the walls? Did we have any incidences? Is there any homework that's not turned in? You know what I mean? So it would help me understand what was happening with their medications. I would know if they weren't getting their homework done, you know, and it was a great way for me to communicate with these teachers. And it literally started that agenda system in the schools. I was the first to integrate it because the systems we had in place before were not working. It was the child's responsibility to take the agenda to the teacher. It was a child's responsibility to get that signature. You know what I mean? And there were consequences if they didn't get what they were supposed to get done, you know? So yeah, they didn't have any idea. That was the two things they threw me into. And that's why I got an A in that course, because I brought two huge movements through them, with the spiritual group having some kind of a structure that wouldn't interfere on religions. And then I figured out the agenda book to communicate effectively with these teachers working with these kids.
Interesting.
Because it was a lockdown. They didn't know what to do with it. And whatever they were doing before was a nightmare, and it was not working. So I had to restructure it.
You know, as I'm sitting here, because, you know, when you live it, it's like
Yeah.
you said, it's different.
Yes.
I cannot imagine sitting here, the complexity of the challenge itself, with the fact that you have abused children, many of them who have their self-esteem has been blown. The structure that they looked for trust has been completely shattered. So you've taken the core structures of what we call healthy spiritual soul development, mental health.
Yep.
But when that happens, it's a long road to get a child back. But when you complicate it with beginning now to include chemicals,
Oh yeah.
scripts, that's that. You see, here's what I think, Trina, and you tell me if I'm wrong. No one human being reacts to the same drug like the other person. They may have similarities.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Yep.
And, you know, I took a lot of LSD.
Mm-hmm.
My physiology was adaptive to that. You can take another person who would virtually take nothing. Yeah, just.
Yep.
I could see your frustration, my lady. I can see that.
I wanted to pull my hair out. It was terrible. Yeah.
So let's talk about what you're doing now, because your heart, your soul, the energy that you give is remarkable, Trina. And it's a passion of yours. You and I were talking about this prior in the situation you were just in. Wow. And listen, I know there are people who are listening to us. Many of you have children that you're desperate to find a solution. Trina, let's talk a little bit about how you approach this situation.
It's so weird, Wayne, because it's so simple. You can accomplish 50 years of therapy in 1 hour if you can go and get the kids into theta and get them into the subconscious mind. I've seen people regenerate their spines. I've seen miracle after miracle. I've seen moms lose night terrors from walking in on a child's suicide. I've seen depression gone, grief gone, anxiety gone. The person has to want it, because a lot of people love their illnesses. They love the victim. So, but the ones who want to heal and the ones who want to, this is what I'm saying. Psychology and social work, all these things I was looking at these systems. I'm like, they don't work. Because as an intuitive shaman, I knew how to flip those kids with their belief systems by making them look at their trauma a different way. Mm-hmm. That's called neuro-linguistic reprogramming.
Right.
Through confusion, you see a new solution. So, it's creating confusion so they can look for a different way to understand. So you can even do this consciously if you can get them deeply enough involved in their own thoughts and then throw them at it from a totally different way and see if it makes them go, whoa. Because as soon as you see your trauma from a different position, it heals.
Interesting.
Because it doesn't go down the same signals from the brain. It creates a new neural pathway set to travel through. So the trauma is gone. You still have all the information. Everything is intact. Nothing is changed. Nothing is programmed. Nothing is removed. You literally see it from a higher perspective, which comes through the higher mind. So it is literally that simple. And this is what shamanic work does. It literally gets you into the theta brain. It gets you into the imagination. That's why Christ says, those who come to me with the mind and the eyes of a child will sing the kingdom of heaven. This is what that means. You can have access to heaven if you can get into the theta brain. And you do it all the time. We're in theta when we daydream.
Yeah, well, I mean, those that daydream.
Yeah, that's why you're like, I love my meditations when I'm washing my dishes. They're so profound. I'm like, yeah, you're manifesting. That's awesome. Just go. That's beautiful.
That's one of the things that I'm telling people. It's why it's altering our species. Our young people today We had imagination. We would go outside and play. We had imaginary games. Today, we've allowed a machine to now absorb what we used to call daydreaming.
Yes.
So my question is, and I'm sure within each demographic of the age bracket, particularly, with adolescents, I remember I dated a doctor years and years and years ago, a long time ago, but she said, the interesting thing about the physiology of a 12-year-old, and sometimes it starts younger in the females, is that there is a period of time when they're not human.
Yes.
They're not human beings. They're not children. They're not adults.
Nope. Yep. It's because they're blending delta and theta.
Yep.
They're blending the wavelengths of the sine waves. Yeah. And when they're from 1 to 7, they're a different species.
Yeah.
They're still fully connected and they're not even fully here yet. And they're in total imagination. That's why children imagine. And when they're playing cowboys and Indians, it's real because they still have access to the dream world real time.
Bingo.
So that's why children know the secrets of the universe. My goodness, they're wise.
Now, when we look at a situation where there's abuse involved in this is what many people don't stop and understand. When a child is in constant fear, and I was immersed in that for years. Yeah. Taking that ability that children have, mixing that fear, the fear of my dad's coming home, what am I going to get beat about today? The fear that no matter what I do is going to be wrong. You take that substance, and when you interject it into the dream world, the spirit realm, there is what people don't understand. There's a membrane between this world and the spirit world, and I call it the dream world. And children will create demons that they bring into their adult life that will haunt them till their grave.
Can I tell you a beautiful story about that?
Please do, please.
One of my dear friends had a trauma as a child involving severe abuse, and he had reoccurring dreams since his entire life. And he's an adult, he's in his 40s, and he was having trouble with relationships. I mean, it was going across the board. And the thing is there was always this monster. Every night when he went to sleep, there was this monster. So I took him into a session, and he went and he faced that monster, and it turned out to be his dad. And when he realized it was just his dad, and now he's a full-grown man, there's nothing that he could be afraid of with his father being a frail old man. And all the fear that was the monster was literally from a childhood trauma and childhood fear. So as soon as he faced the monster, he saw the monster's identity, then he could work it all out and completely heal it. And all of it went away. His relationship bloomed. He got remarried. He's completely thriving in his life, all because he dealt with the monster in the closet. That's how deep these things are within us and how simple they can be to fix.
And isn't that because we anticipate it being complicated?
And it's not. That's the most beautiful thing. And that's why I always say, keep it simple, stupid, because that was literally the key to the game. Keep it simple. Keep it simple.
I teach this because I live it. So where my father and I, which I'm finding out he wasn't my real father, but he was the one who raised me, and he was a very bitter man.
Yeah.
And had many things that he couldn't work out. Much of that frustration he took out on me in the form of physical and also verbal abuse. Now, the state took me away. When I came down with spinal meningitis and Lyme disease and fell into the coma, this is the first thing I did. In fact, my doctors got really upset because I wasn't supposed to fly, for the cranial pressure. But anyway, I met with my dad. and we went back to that house of horrors, for me. But although I found many pleasures there, but here's the thing. When I told him that I forgave him and that I loved him and understood the conflict that he had in his life, that man broke down.
Yeah.
And what happened here in the dynamics was that there was a blending of healing between two souls, two spirits that probably have no joining, but yet that broke what I called a curse.
The spell. Yeah.
The spell. Yes.
That's the most beautiful thing, Wayne. You did this in the physical world, but this is the beautiful thing. You can do this in the astrals, and it causes the same effect. So, but for you to do that in the physical world, that is so beautiful, and that is so powerful.
What's the only way? I mean,
But like I said, if somebody's passed away and there's things that need to be resolved, you can handle those things too, because somehow we're still connected in these realms in our mind, and you can talk to them just like you and I can talk right now. You just go to a different place in your mind to do it, and it's just your imagination. It's not some big top secret fascinating thing. It's like,
well, sure it is.
We all have this thing. We can do it. It's not that big of a deal.
I'm gonna have to get a tin hat here, because I mean, the discovery that I am becoming more and more aware of. I mean, whether you're astral projecting, whether you're lucid dreaming, whatever the case is, we all dream. So everyone lucid dreams. But anyway, here's the point. When you find that everything is mental, as I said yesterday, I've prayed most of my life and prayed to what I thought was this deity. Is it changed? Well, yeah, it's changed for me. But the point is, it was done telepathically.
Me too.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yep.
And you know what? I heard from that deity. There were times, you see? Mm-hmm. So it's obvious that they exist.
Yes.
There are powers. And we do it here. And when you said, when someone passes over to the other side, I think we've been mistaught. I had a very wise person write me and said, that when you remember a person, you're sending them energy.
You're calling them on your cell phone.
Thank you. Yes.
You're calling on your cell phone. For real. Yeah. And you're using your television, your telepathic abilities, or your TV set. It's because some people can see. Some people can just hear. Some people can see. Some people can see, but not hear. It happens all different with everybody. But yeah, that's your built-in IT, man, internal tech.
I told Lynn, Lydia is learning how to walk. And it's great to see children at that very young age into life, because as you get older, you have a whole new perspective. Yeah. And the thought hit me, Wayne, this is how you're learning now about communicating with the spirit realm. I think, Trina, through the tragedies of our lives and the way that we're taught, we disconnect ourselves from that realm. And then we struggle to get back to it once we become aware of it.
Yep. I think so too. I've been blessed to never let go of the connection, just because nothing made as much sense. Like, this reality had so many things I didn't agree with or like. And it was hard for me to understand cruelty. It was hard for me to understand abuse. Even though I experienced some of it, I couldn't understand how people could do it. I had all these questions in my brain. But all of those like seeing the satanic ceremony things, all these things
Mm.
brought into my awareness, and the kids and the demonic possession, all these things have made me keep remembering that there's more to this than we can see.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, I why it is that I see three categories. I see those who not only survive, but they succeed.
Yeah.
I see those who survive, but end up failing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there are those who, unfortunately,
Don't make it.
don't make it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Yep.
some years ago, I endeavored to try to see some of the kids that I knew when I was in the state home. Regrettably, most of them are dead.
Yeah.
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 And today I could only think about how when you were immersed into now the system, that where you have this compounding factor of medications,
Yeah.
boy, you know, Trina, I don't know. I can only imagine how frustrating that must have been.
Especially too, because like you can heal possession. You can
Mm-hmm.
heal these things. It's like, and I've seen them healed, and it's like, why won't you heal them? It
Well, you know what? Let's just stop here because you just bring out a point. It just hit me. There has to be a portal or entrance into the body that occupies more than just one presence. So often it is the hurt, the pain that we mask where our demons come in, and where there can be incidences of more than just one sentient being possessing a body.
You know what breaks my heart the most about that specific case was that this child didn't do anything to deserve this, because I think the entity got in because her mom had used heroin the entire pregnancy. And
Mm-hmm.
no auric field. She had
Yep,
no field. So like it killed her light somehow.
it did.
So yeah, like you said, the essence was fractured so things could jump in it.
Yep. And that's what happens. And um you know, a lot of people don't want to talk about these things, but this is why we have the challenges in society that we have today.
Yeah, and the thing is that I'm seeing, like, the most important thing is we have to start falling back on each other to put our worlds back together. We can't go outside of, and just get on medications and stuff, because these are a trap
Mm-hmm.
for most people. For some people, it's a true blessing and it helps them, but for most, it's not.
No,
So
no, no, no.
we need to start to understand what is and what isn't, and we need to start to understand if our healing has to come from our own internal works. You can't count on anything else to heal your trauma. That has to be done from within. That's why, like Jesus would say, salvation's a personal thing. It ain't going to come from outside.
It's inside. It's an inside job.
It is an inside job. Yes. But the inside job is relatively easy to access.
Well, I'm going to make a statement here. You know, I've known this for decades. When you look at the word pharmacia, pharmakopa, which is the Greek, where we get our words pharmaceuticals today, I contend this. Virtually most of the world is possessed, and I'll say why. I believe that when you alter as an alchemist chemicals,
Mhm.
in alchemy, and you get different combinations of when we're calling baseline alkalines, proteins, and you begin to mix this for a specific, what you're saying, part of the body. When you ingest that, that is coming with a spiritual presence with it.
Absolutely.
Now, people want to go, oh, no, 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 I got to take heart medicine. Listen, hear what I'm saying. There is virtually no difference, because if it's altering the physiology of the body through a synthesis, through a chemical compound,
Yeah. This is the thing, Wayne. Like, Dr. Alan Miller, he trained people on how to regulate their temperatures so the Marines
Mm-hmm.
freeze at night in the cold snow. You know, these are like all natural abilities that we have. We've never been allowed to explore these things. So, like your heart medication, don't ever stop taking it until your heart
No.
is healed. But with that, your heart, it can be regulated by the subconscious part of the mind, because that's what it talks about in scripture. Physician, heal thyself. The pharmakia that is built into your natural anatomy is more precise than anything you could ever chemically mimic in this reality.
And it's all synthetic.
It is. And your body is organic, and your body has the pharmacy within it. So if you can activate your internal pharmacy, then you will need less assistance from the artificial pharmacy, because these things are natural to your being. And that's all I'm saying. People should start giving it a little bit of try to heal themselves before they go outside of themselves for help.
Well, let's talk about this. I mean, if you look at herbalists, the healers, going back thousands, tens of thousands of years, what we knew was that since these bodies are part of Earth, Earth in itself gave us remedies for the things that these bodies do. They have a tendency to break down.
Yes.
But those compounds were of the earth. They were of the natural essence of the earth itself. And there were, whether it was a sorcerer, wizard, witch, whatever, healer, they knew through the combination of herbs, different things, vegetation, it could heal the body. But those compounds were natural compounds, is what my point was.
You're absolutely correct. And that's why they started killing all the witches.
Yes. And look what happened. You had the freaking Black Plague. I mean, come on.
Right. And then the initiation of have to get your medicine from the doctor. You can't get your own anymore. It's not allowed. That was the first step to wipe out all natural healing. They got rid of the witches.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you look back in the class of societies, I mean, the upper echelon, they had the true herbalists. How they stayed healthy. That's was the lower classes that had to be, exactly. And that's where witches became very well known, and they were just wise women.
Right. And this is the beautiful thing about the internet, is now we can all become wise women. We can all become witches. Because now we can start to learn about how nature assists you for different things. Like high blood pressure is typically mineral deficiencies of, I think it's gamma and something else, and chondroitin. So like you find out what the body's lacking or what it's missing, which is typically a mineral or a vitamin. 99% of all things breaking down in the body are from immune dysfunction, which is from something not being present in the body that's needed. Our water's not running down the creek no more. We're not getting it out. So we need certain things. And without those plutonic solids, those chemicals producing their alchemy, your body cannot run at its highest, most optimal field. It cannot. So we're going to the doctor wanting drugs when we got mineral and vitamin deficiencies a lot of the time.
Yeah, and we've talked about this. The biggest deficiency amongst most human beings out there is things like magnesium. Who'd have thought? But magnesium is a key component in binding electrical inputs.
Energy distribution. Yeah.
Wait a minute. The brain is an electromagnetic field that, I don't know. And my doctor told me this. When you also look at high blood pressure, those and virtually everyone, most people end up having it.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that many times it's directly connected to the kidneys.
Yes.
Who'd have thought? So when your kidneys are under strain, it puts the strain on literally the entire circulatory system.
Well, think about it. It's the water filtration system for the
Yes.
water of the body. And if the water filter is clogged or not running properly, it would put pressure on the rest of the entire water system.
And most of the things that we consume today in modern society are caffeinated drinks, carbonated drinks, these things that are going to directly impact the kidneys, which has the subsequent domino effect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's what I mean. It's so simple. I mean, if the kidneys are struggling, there's things you can do to support the kidneys. But like I said, once you're to a certain point, you got to go to the doctor if you can't resolve things on your own. That's what I'm saying. If things are showing up in your body, things are showing up, you go at it aggressively. Go see your physician. See, and take care of business, because we've given our power away on every single level. And we've got to start getting some self-responsibility back. We've got to start paying attention to our gut feelings. This blending of the masculine and the feminine has to happen. And it is happening. And I know we've already hit critical mass, which is amazing. But people, 90% of the things that are making us suffer are just programs within our mind. Rewrite them.
And that's what we keep teaching here. And we continue to teach that. It's quite amazing that when you see the connection of, for myself, I can't drink carbonated beverages. My body doesn't like this, and it will start, and folks, if you suffer from acid reflux, other type of indigestive type ailments, if you're drinking carbonated drinks, cut them out.
No go. Wayne, I've been that way my whole life. I've never been able to drink soda my entire life. Every time I would get a kidney, bladder, or urinary tract infection. Every time.
Tells you.
Yeah, my body says no.
And I'm telling you, 10 years down the road, they're going to come out with studies that the caffeinated energy drinks that this generation, we didn't have them in ours. I'm going to tell you, I got a friend who's a cardiologist. They see it coming. They begin, they're fully expecting the generation X, the Xers. Yeah.
I have a 33-year-old friend who dropped dead already from Red Bull. I know 6 people in their 30s that have had cardiac arrest, and the doctor said they think it was from the energy drinks.
Yep. That's what we're saying, folks.
Yep. Yeah. And they call it Monster, Wayne.
Oh, well, I love the fact that it's also the Hebrew letters for 666. So, so hey, you tell me what's going on. And listen, we're going to get more into this, Trina. When we begin to look at the whole things of portals, sigils, I contend that when you begin to look at the physiology thing, the pharmacia of what our society today, modern culture, is virtually saturated with chemicals.
Oh, yes. And sigils and match.
And sigils. And then you've got on your can, you have no idea what the intent was on that sigil.
Yes, absolutely. When I was a little girl, the Crest toothpaste, they changed their logo because it used to be a witch riding on a broom when I was a little girl, and they removed it. It had some witchcraft thing on it, and they removed it. But yeah, I'm telling you, this has been going on forever.
Yeah. Forever. We're getting wiser, though.
Yes.
Well, another hour is come and gone.
Oh my gosh.
It does. It just, wow. Trina, I had a completely different thing here, but you know what? This is why we allow the energy to flow through here. And that I think that's the best way to be. It really is.
I ask every time before I get on your show, Spirit, just talk, say what you want to talk, soul, guide spirit, and bring forth what needs to be discussed. Because I'm just here to serve and just here to help and just here to try to get more people healthy and healing their own selves. Because guys, I know we can do this. I've seen it, and you have too.
Lived it.
I
And,
know.
you know, folks, there's a lot of us here, and been a lot of us who have been broken. And many of us, Trina, I dare say, have had to rebuild ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah. And it took me 50 plus years to learn to love myself.
Absolutely.
Folks,
Wayne,
don't let that go along that.
yeah, I was going to say, I think that's the most common condition that we're truly up against right now, is that we forgot how to really love ourselves. And for you to get through that and to learn self-love, that's why you're so blessed. That's why the favor is everywhere on you. You got rainbows landing on your front porch. I mean, that is a blessing from the actual Archon saying, I give up, you win. You know?
Someone wrote me and said, you know, when you pass over, they're going to be going, part the ways and don't mess with the dude. I said, I don't know about that, but
you know,
hey.
you know your worth, you know your value.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, the most beautiful medicine all of us could take, is to understand our worth and to understand our value. If we didn't have so much value, these peoples wouldn't be trying to control us and harm us the way that they were. Because if we weren't a threat, they wouldn't cause threat to us.
And that's a fact, Jack.
Yeah.
Yes. Miss Trina, I love it. Always enjoy our time together. Folks, all her contact information there. You want to say something before we get out of here?
Just love you guys all. Let's heal our stuff together. I'm ready.
Hey, and I think that is, and you know, I enjoy seeing you. You know I see you over in Brian's, and get to your YouTube channel, and if you need some counseling on, particularly if you have children that are having issues, folks, get in touch with Trina, and it could be a resource that could be very much a big help. All right. Thank you, Trina. Go ahead. You're going to say something. I can sense it.
I was going to say, you know, I haven't been able to dive into this work recently yet with autistic children, but if I have a feeling, anybody get them to journey work practitioners, quantum healers, and see if they can get into their stomachs. I have a feeling that if you can heal these babies' bellies, you're going to get your babies back. It's just a gut feeling I have, and I'm pretty sure I'm right.
All right. I contend we have yet to discover the miracle of these bodies.
We're getting close.
We are getting close. All right, Miss Trina, I love you, dear. Love everyone. Thank you. Be good to yourselves. We will see you next week. And hey, learn to love yourself. That's the best thing. All right. Bye-bye, everyone. Be good.